Hi, Millie. How are you?
I'm finding yourself, Mukesh.
Okay. So, what is the assignment for today?
Today I'll be presenting on the recognition of customary marriages in South Africa.
Okay, that's nice topic. So, please go ahead and start.
All right. Following colonization in South Africa, the indigenous South African laws were not recognized. And obviously, the colonizers came with their own laws. So that created a lot of confusion. And also, it left out a lot of South African people's traditions and cultures. And over time, many of those cultures were not practiced. And wherever they were practiced, they were not given recognition. When it came to marriages, a lot of families did enter into customary marriages, but they did not have the protection that was required. This abstract will be highlighting the provisions of the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act 120 of 1998, which has created a reform regarding how customary marriages must be regulated. In a number of cases, wives would be stay-at-home wives. They would be looking after children. They'll be raising they'll be looking after the family, raising children, and looking after the household. And the husband would be the person that goes out to work and makes the money. And in most cases, the wife would not know how to provide for herself on her own. And whenever the husband passed away, they would be faced with family members that refused them the right to claim any of the husband's assets. Most of the time, a wife would be told that they must go back to their family because they don't have a purpose there anymore. In some cases, where the wife would be fortunate enough, the brother of the husband would marry her as well so that she wouldn't be left destitute. But that was not the case for many women. Many women would find themselves destitute, having no money. They cannot claim any of the assets because the family members would dictate how the dissolution of the marriage should happen after the husband has passed away. So this was a big disadvantage for many women because they had nowhere else to go in cases where family members would also not want to take them back. They would have no money. They wouldn't be able to rebuild a life of their own. And most of the time, their children would be left destitute as well. The Recognition of Customary Marriages Act has made provision to identify what actually constitutes a customary marriage in South Africa. Because South Africa has so many different cultures, there are different practices from culture to culture. But the Act has put together commonalities that exist in all those cultures. And some of the practices that are done in all the cultures are the basis of what has formed the requirements for a valid customary marriage in South Africa. According to Section 3 of the Act, the requirements that must be met for there to be a valid, legally recognized customary marriage are: the people that enter into the marriage must be 18 years or older, because previously there would be cases where a family could allow a young child to be married by an older man. So the Act has ensured that they put the age restriction so that young children are not forced into marriages. There are people going into the marriage have to be at least 18 years or older before they can get into the marriage. And the second requirement is that both parties must be able to consent to the marriage. It mustn't be a forced marriage. It must not be an arranged marriage. Both parties must agree that they want to enter into that customary marriage. The third requirement is that the parties entering into the marriage, there must be a negotiation. Negotiations means that there is a bride price that is paid by the family of the groom to the bride's family. It is a traditional gesture that is paid in order to thank the family of the bride for raising her and also to assure them that bride will be taken care of in the new family. Now, this is usually done, nowadays, it's done through financial means. It's money that is transferred from one family to the other. Previously, they used the means of cattle or sheep or any other livestock that they had that they could agree to as the bride price. According to the Customary Marriages Act, if all these three requirements have been fulfilled, there is a valid customary marriage. In most cases, this will be celebrated, as that would also, after the negotiations are done, there will be a celebration to show that there is actually a marriage. Now, the Act has provided that couples that are in a customary marriage, they can register their marriages. When the act was enacted, previously the couples that were married before 2000, the enactment of the act, which came into effect November 2000, they were given 12 months to register their marriages at the Home Affairs Office. And also any other person that is entering into a customary marriage after this act was enacted, they have 3 months to register their marriage, because usually when this marriage is done, there is no priest that can solemnize the marriage. It's usually between family members and the people that are entering into it. And in some villages and some areas, there will be a traditional leader as well present to witness it, but they're not officially given the right to register the marriage. It must be registered at the Home Affairs Office. If the marriage is not registered, it is not invalidated. What is required are the three requirements. Should any one of the parties decide that they don't want to be a part of this marriage anymore, or if one of the parties pass away or die, there is still an existing marriage, and either one of the parties that is remaining has a claim. According to this Customary Marriages Act, all customary marriages that are entered into where it will be where it will be a monogamous marriage, it will automatically be in community of property. That means that there is no option for an antenuptial contract to be entered into if it's only two parties that are entering into the marriage. That means there's only two spouses. That way, they are basically saying it will be monogamous, so they both enter into a community of property marriage regime. However, this act also does provide that if a husband wants to take up more wives in a customary marriage, he can do so. So the act allows husbands to take up more than one wife if they're married in a customary marriage. The wife does not have the same privileges. Polyandry is not legal. Only polygamy is allowed. Now, this is an aspect that some women are not aware of. In other cultures, it is openly practiced. The wife would know that if they are married in a customary marriage, there is a possibility that the husband will take up further wives. But in some cultures, women do not know that the husband is actually allowed to take up further wives, and it creates disputes further down the line. But this is why it's so important that they come to understand the provisions of this act, because it does make provision for multiple marriages to be entered into. If the marriage is not a monogamous marriage, the marriage regime will change. Only the first wife will be married in community of property, and any other wife that comes into the marriage thereafter, they will be married in a different marriage contract, which the husband must request approval for before he enters into that marriage with that particular spouse. That means they will not have the same rights as the first wife, because the first wife is married in community of property. The other wives will not be married in community of property. They have to sign a different contract. In some cultures, the husband is not allowed to marry more wives without the permission of the first wife. Particularly in the Tsonga culture, the husband needs the consent of the first wife before he can take up a second wife. If this consent is withheld, he cannot continue to marry anybody else. Should he proceed to take up another wife, that marriage will be null and void. Even if he spends time and years together with the other wife, if the consent of the first wife was not obtained, that second marriage or third marriage would be null and void. The other aspect of the Customary Marriages Act is that it has to be practiced in a manner that all the wives have equal rights in terms of they have their own households, the men can provide for them. They are not, one must not have more rights than the other. In traditional settings, the husband would have different households for each and every wife so that they don't all live under one roof. They can share his property at his household, but the wife that has their own household will own all the property that is in her household. The other wives will not have a claim on any of that property. The last point to make regarding customary marriages is that if there is any dispute, which has actually occurred in a number of cases in South Africa, where family members will decide that an aspect of the rituals that they usually perform was not done. For instance, a father of a groom could decide that he does not recognize the marriage because he was not present to negotiate, or because they never obtained his permission, or they can complain that the mother of the bride was not authorized to negotiate on behalf of the bride in a case where a father is absent, or any other person in the family could raise disputes regarding how the marriage was done. Celebrations were not done a certain way. They didn't officially take the bride to the husband's family. The law has indicated that none of those other rituals or traditional practices are necessary. They can be done, but they do not invalidate a customary marriage that does meet the three requirements that are mentioned in Section 3. Those are the only requirements that must be fulfilled, and any marriage entered according to those requirements is a valid customary marriage and deserves the protection that a civil marriage would require, provided it's a monogamous marriage, where that means that the couple is married in community of property. And there is no other way of dissolving a customary marriage except through the passing away of one spouse or a divorce. If any spouse decides that they do not want to be a part of it anymore, they have to get a divorce decree from the court. Thank you.
So thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. A lot of things that is something to for me to learn from this presentation, of course, because so many new things that I come to know. And if I see the comparatively in India, more or less similar acts are there. Because in
Okay.
India also has some different community, Hindu community, Muslim community, isn't it? Parsi
Yes,
community.
yes,
So all these things are there. So they have different laws. They have different marriages. I
yes,
mean different marriages law.
yes,
So as you explained that in different community they have different kind of laws, right? So
yes, yes,
not a single law governs the entire country, because
yes,
in some community polygamy is allowed, in some community it is
yes,
not. Okay, that
yes,
is something like family law is the matter of customary law. It's the matter of.
yes,
And so whatever the community practicing, that is of course acceptable. And law, when legislators make the law, they ensure by protecting the interest of the community at large, for which they
yes,
are making the laws, isn't it?
yes,
That's nice.
yes,
But there are a couple of things that I would like to know more regarding the age. As you mentioned, age 18 years in this act.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Customary Marriage Act, age is 18 years. Is it for both male and female, or for male or female something different?
yes. Both parties must be at least 18 years or older.
Oh, it's the same age, 18 years.
Yes. If they are younger than 18, they are not eligible to enter into the marriage.
Okay, so male.
because 18 is the year of maturity. Anybody that's younger than 18 in South Africa is a minor. They
Okay,
cannot contract on their own.
okay, okay. So after attaining the age of 18, either male or female, they have the right to, means they are eligible for marriage.
Yes.
Okay. In India, it is something different. For girls, it is 18. For boys, it is 21 years.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
That's
okay.
why.
That's
That's why I was
interesting.
asking.
That's interesting.
Huh.
Okay, that's
So,
interesting.
but yes, minor or major, that is the one age. That is only 18 years. Before that,
Yes,
minor, and after that, it's major for both male and female.
yes,
For
yes.
marriage, it is 18 for girls and 21 for male.
Okay,
Okay,
all
and
right.
regarding the bridal price, what was that?
It's called lobola. So this is basically a dowry, but it's paid by the by the husband's family to the wife's family. So
Okay.
it's a traditional practice
Mhm.
that has been happening for as long as I think marriages in black communities have existed. So it's a form of a gift to the family of the bride, and
Okay.
they have to sit down to discuss how much it's going to be. So
Oh,
that is the negotiation part that the law refers to. It must be negotiated. They must sit and talk and say, our children want to get married. This is the money that we'd like to offer you. And then the bride's family must indicate if they accept it or not until they get to an acceptable amount for both of them.
okay. So in India, it's the reverse. It's the
Okay.
girl's family or parents. They give to boys' family. So
Wow.
it's a reverse kind of
Okay.
situation.
Okay, okay. And why is it done that way in India?
It raised so the level of crime is very high because of this dowry system. है
Oh,
ना?
okay.
Many of the bride being killed, है ना?
Sure,
Burnt alive.
sure.
So because of all those criminal activities, the law passed, and this act, dowry system, is criminalized.
Oh,
So
okay,
giving the
okay,
dowry, taking the dowry, demanding everything, everything is now prohibited by the law.
okay,
But
okay.
but in practice, that is there. People are giving, people are taking unofficially. In practice, that is there.
But it's prohibited.
Huh. But legally it is prohibited. If someone
Okay.
complains, then action must be taken against the person who is demanding dowry.
The dowry.
Hmm.
Okay.
So that is there.
Sorry, Mukesh. I'm wondering why did it become something that ended up being criminalized? Because in South Africa, it's part of the celebration. It's a good thing. They must just agree on an amount, but it doesn't end up in any criminal activity.
Okay.
So how did it end up in criminal activity in India?
Okay. What happened? I tell you. It was of course in India at one point in time the part of celebration, right?
Okay.
But okay, earlier it was of course the part of celebration. People give it suo moto, है ना? They exchange the things. So
Yeah.
there was no demand. There was no greed for that.
Okay.
As per
Okay.
the wish of the bride's parents, है ना? They used to give
Yes.
it. Okay, but over period in time, it became part of something like greed. So I want, as you said, there is negotiation. So
Yes.
demand has increased very high. So that of course that was not
Okay.
a problem, still not a problem. They were used to negotiate the things. But what happened over period in time, the family of the bridegroom, or including the bridegroom, After
Yes.
marriage, they start torturing the wife.
You. Okay, that's scary.
Husband and husband's family
Sure.
start torturing the wife even after marriage of 1 year, 2 years, and they used to ask, go to your parents' house and demand this much money or something like some vehicle or whatever the things.
Oh
So
goodness.
such kind of things. So this story doesn't end at the marriage itself, but it continues even after marriage.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
so that was kind of thing, and it raised the criminal activity. People start torturing the woman, है ना, husband
Mm,
and his family start torturing, beating. There is high level of cruelty on this.
sure.
Sometimes even burn alive.
Sure.
So criminal activity increased very high. Dowry death. The legislator made the law.
Yes.
Okay, so
That,
dowry
that
act,
makes
and
sense.
that prohibited the dowry system. So you want to get married, okay, go for marriage, but without any dowry, no demand.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
since this is the past part of custom, so it is there. But yes, criminal activity has decreased down, है ना?
Okay.
So
All right.
but still cases are filed, but not at that much. The number has
Okay.
decreased, है ना? Because now
Okay.
people
All right.
people have the fear of being arrested and imprisoned and
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that,
Yes.
है ना? So this is why,
Okay.
but
All
officially
right.
it is prohibited.
All right. Now I understand.
Huh. So in your country there is nothing like that.
No, because usually that money is paid once off.
Yes,
Once the bride is married, they don't ask for more money. It's now the husband's duty to take care of the wife.
right.
So there's no more money that must come thereafter. And if the woman is not treated well, usually it has nothing to do with that lobola. It will be marital issues that must be dealt with. But I have not read or heard of any cases that resulted from the payment of the bride money.
Okay, now that's good, because if it is paid by the husband's family and husband, then that is something good comparatively.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm. So that is a sort of buying the bride. In India, it is
Basically, yes,
in India it is
yes.
buying the bridegroom. है ना? There it is
Yes,
buying the
yes.
bride. But in some part, in some tribal group, it is reverse kind of situation. It's of course as practiced in your country, here is like the same. But in that is in some tribal group only. Otherwise,
Okay,
largely it is by bride's family, they give
okay.
so-called
Yeah, no,
gift.
it's actually, I think now more people are having conversations about its significance. Is it still necessary to pay it or not? But it's still a necessity in terms of customary marriages. I think with time, because with customary marriage or customary law in South Africa, it's based on actual practices. If people start to practice it less and less, then it will not have significance. But at this stage, it's still a big significant factor when it comes to entering into marriage. Even if a couple wants to do a civil marriage, the negotiations and the bridegroom must still be paid. And they can still do a civil marriage, but that money must still be paid.
Yes, that is supposed to be the next question regarding the civil marriage, as you're saying. So, what about the love marriage? Means if couple get involved in relationship before the marriage without the knowledge of their parents. So, in that condition, what?
So in that case, previously there was a payment that would be required called damages. if, for instance, the couple decides to get to be together without the parents knowing, and they enter into marital relations, and it's found out that the boy and the girl have already been together, there would be damages. But most of the time, that's something that can be hidden. It will be evident when the girl falls pregnant.
Hmm.
If the girl falls pregnant before marriage, then the husband's family must pay damages for making her pregnant before marrying her. But now the trend now is a lot of people live together without getting married. There's a lot of cohabitation. So it depends on the beliefs of that couple and the practices in that particular family. Some families are more lenient when it comes to those kind of matters. If their kids are adults and they want to live together, they don't really force them to get married first.
Mhm.
But in some cases where the couple decides that now they are ready to get married, they will ask for the damages. If they've already been living together, if there's already a child, they will ask for the damages as well when the bride price is paid.
Okay. So, but that can be abstained or something like live out with with the common consensus with both the
Yes,
families.
yes,
Both the families,
yes.
they can decide. Okay, they do not want anything. They want their children get married.
Not with the bride price. The bride price is something that must be paid. I think what is more common now is if one person is from an African tradition and the other person is from a Western tradition, then it's different because usually the Europeans don't pay that type of money. So then the negotiations can be different. They can decide whether it's significant or not. But in most cases, if the guy is European or Asian, they will still want to respect the woman's family and do what the woman's family expects.
Okay,
But
okay,
yes, it is something that families can decide. If they decide that they don't want you, what is more common actually is not about the families. If they decide not to do it, it's the couple. There are couples that can decide to go to home affairs without telling anyone and just get married. That is more common. But the moment there's families involved, there will be money paid.
okay. So that is something like mandatory kind of thing. So,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
of course, part of customs. Without that, marriage supposed to be not validated or complete. है ना?
yes, yes.
So that's good then. And registration, how much it is mandatory? If the people getting married through customary marriage kind of practice, then they required essentially to get registered their marriage or not?
Essentially, their marriage will still be valid as long as they meet the other three requirements. But the Act does encourage that they should register. But it also states that if they didn't get an opportunity to register, it does not invalidate the marriage as long as the three
Okay,
requirements are met.
okay, okay.
So the
So
registration is just to help protect them so that it's official in terms of the Home Affairs Office.
right, right, right. And
So I think the problem becomes when something happens. If maybe, for instance, the husband dies or the husband wants to leave the wife, it will take a lot of admin for the woman to prove that they're married. For instance, she will have to bring forward the letters that said they want to come and negotiate. She'll have to bring the people that were there negotiating on her behalf. There'll be a lot of proof required if any party disputes the marriage. So it's better if it's registered.
okay, okay. But the same issue that I can't compare with my country. The same issue could be also here, could be. But if marriage is not registered, it's only through the customary kind of marriage practice and all. Then there is a lot of things. for the evidence, like as you explained the celebration, है ना?
Yes, yes,
Because
yes,
celebration, if celebrating the marriage, then there are a lot of people involved in that marriage, है ना?
yes,
All the
yes.
relatives and friends and everyone supposed to be coming in that marriage. So pictures, these days pictures, videos and everything is there while getting married, है ना?
Yes,
Apart from
yes,
that, if they are living together, of course society knows they are living together,
yes,
right?
yes, yes,
So of
yes,
course if society knows they are living together, then it's not a very big deal to prove they are married couple,
yes,
है ना?
yes.
In these days, the Supreme Court of India has also validated the live in relationship. So even without any
Okay.
marriage, whether it is
Yes,
customary marriage or registered marriage, there is no marriage. If they are living substantially for a longer period of time, means say 4 years 5 years, then they will be
yes.
considered as husband and wife. And wife has, means that girl has the all rights as a wife has through marriage.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay,
No, in
so
South Africa it's different.
okay, okay. So what about the divorce?
Yes, so it's literally treated like any civil marriage. It has to go through the court.
Okay,
They have to go and say, if there's no registration, then again they have to prove first that they are married first
okay.
before they can ask for the divorce. Then it has to be then the submission of the evidence that there is a valid customary marriage. Once that is confirmed, then there can be a divorce. So that means they will have to register it, and then they have to do the divorce.
Okay, so the primary requirement is the the proof of marriage. They are married couple.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Secondly, if one party wants divorce and another party doesn't, in that case,
They have to divorce because you have to prove why you want a divorce, and divorce is based on irrevocable breakdown of marriage. One party might decide that they don't want to get married, but if the other party wants to divorce, you cannot force them to stay in the marriage. So it's not something that is discussed by the families or resolved through the family negotiations or discussions. If any one of the parties wants to get a divorce, they can approach the court for a divorce.
he or she must prove some ground why he or she wants divorce.
Yes, it has to be irrevocable breakdown of marriage.
So, what are the grounds
It
or
can be
ground?
anything from they don't love each other anymore, they don't sleep on the same bed anymore, they don't live together anymore, they don't see each other anymore, or the husband is gone for too long, or there's infidelity. It could be anything that constitutes a valid ground for a divorce. There has been mentioned that adultery is not really considered a big factor anymore. But if a person wants to divorce because of adultery, they are more than welcome to divorce because of that.
Okay. So, how much time it takes to get divorce?
That would depend on whether it's contested or not. If it's a divorce that is not contested,
Mhm.
then it can be a quick process and there can be a settlement and they can divorce. But if it's contested, then it will take longer. And also depending on the assets to be divided.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that
Because
was
then
my.
the valuations will be required.
Oh, that is my next question. How much need to pay and who pay whom?
Usually, when it's a uncontested divorce, either party can pay their own lawyers. But if
Okay.
it's contested, or do you mean the when the divorce is done, which party gets what?
Yes. I'm talking about husband and
So,
wife.
okay. So, in terms of the community of property, each party must get 50% of the assets and
Mhm.
50% of the liabilities.
Okay.
That's how
50%
it
of
is.
the
It's,
asset and
it's
liabilities means
50-50.
if there is,
Community of,
uh,
sorry?
if there are,
Yes, if it's in community of property, it's
okay,
50% of the estate. Each party must get 50% of the assets, 50% of the liabilities as well.
liabilities
But
in terms of the children.
No, in terms of the debts, if the husband has debts, the wife automatically has that responsibility towards the debts as well. She doesn't get the money only.
Okay, okay. And what about the children then?
Then that will be discussed or through the family court. If they decide that they will have a parental plan, then they will draw up a parental plan that has to be approved by the family advocate.
Mhm. Who is going to take the responsibility of financial requirements and everything, like either husband or wife or both of the children?
Usually,
Mhm.
usually, if the children are with the mother,
Minors.
who's
Yes.
gonna be the primary caregiver,
Mhm.
she also still has the responsibility to provide for them. So the court will also decide how much must the husband pay,
Mhm.
depending on the lifestyle that the children are used to
Mhm.
and their living expenses. Then it will be determined how much the husband must pay towards the wife every single month for the maintenance of the children, for the child care.
Okay. Okay. So almost it is settled kind of practice. No.
Yes, legally, both parents have a responsibility to provide for the children.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that the other one has less. The only difference is the means. Who has the means to make provision? In most cases, the wife has less money and the husband has more money. Then the husband will be the one paying more money than the other party. But the other party will also be the primary caregiver, meaning
Okay.
that she spends more time with the children than the husband does. But legally, they equally have a responsibility to provide and to look after their children.
Okay. Okay. And the last one is regarding the polygamy. So husband has the right to marriage twice, thrice.
Yes, as long as it's a customary marriage. If it's a civil marriage, he cannot. Only customary marriages allow for polygamy.
Okay, but you also mentioned the amount of right the first wife has, the same amount of right won't be transferred to second wife, third wife, I mean whatever it is.
Yes, so only the first wife is married in community of property. That
Mhm.
means that only she can have 50% of the husband's estate.
Okay,
The other wives, the husband has to approach the court for a marriage contract to be drafted that will regulate how he will then provide for those ex-wives, for those wives if he wants to divorce them or whatever the case is. But that will only be determined on his 50% of his estate. It will not affect the first wife's portion of the estate.
okay, so that will be separated, the 50%.
Yes.
So he will be sharing
Yes,
only in his 50% share.
yes, yes. They will not get a share of the first wife's share.
Oh, that's nice. Okay,
Yes,
so
I think it does provide protection to the first wife.
right, this is kind of rule prohibits second marriage, third marriage. If there is something
Yes,
like this kind of
actually.
thing, so you have to share your own property then, not your wife's
Yes,
first wife's
yes,
property, huh?
yes, yes, yes,
So this is something like that restrains second marriage, third marriage.
yes, yes.
Okay.
But you know, in South Africa now, it's becoming more common for women to accept to become second wives. Previously,
Why
it
so?
was a complete.
Are they educated?
It educated women as well because it seems that there's a higher number of women who are single and
Mhm.
a very low number of men that are eligible for somebody to want to marry. So in most cases, you find that the man has a lot of girlfriends, but then it starts to create it creates problems in the marriage. And then maybe some of them might want to be official also, because if you're a girlfriend, then he gives you a baby, but he doesn't give you the respect of being a wife. then they start to demand that no, but I also want to be a wife. So your wife must know about me so that we can be official as well. My family must also know. So there's actually a growing number of women that are open to becoming second wives. That's why there's an increase in the number of customary marriages now. People will choose to use the customary marriage rule or a route instead of going through to the civil courts because they're becoming more open to it. And I think they are challenging the concept of the European world, and they want to go back to the roots of the African nation.
Okay, okay, that's nice. So the sex ratio is something like higher. So number of women is higher than the number of male.
Of men. Yes, and
Okay,
even if there were enough men, there's a lot of poverty, obviously. So nobody wants to get married to a man that doesn't have money. Everybody
okay.
wants to marry.
So financial stability and status both are something like essentially required to get married.
It's not necessarily a requirement, but everyone wants to be comfortable if they're going to get married. So you
Right, right.
obviously choose somebody that's going to be able to provide. You don't want to be married to somebody that's going to keep you poor.
So it's a future security for the
It's
sake of future
security.
security.
It's security.
Okay, that's good. Okay, but
But
means
like I'm saying, officially, the law allows for customary marriages to be polygamous. But if people don't choose that option, you cannot be in a civil marriage and a customary marriage at the same time. You have to pick one. So
okay,
if anybody chooses a civil marriage, they don't have the legal right to take up any further wives. So whoever they're gonna be with, it's girlfriends and it's cheating, and obviously it might ruin the other marriage because the other person didn't agree to you having more than one wife.
right, right. Because the
I think
kind of
it's
tradition is going on, the kind of tradition is going on, the rate of divorce will increase in future more and more.
yes, yes.
You know?
I also think so. I also
Hmm.
think so.
So of
I think
course,
that also has to do with marriages are not the same as they used to be years ago. For instance, my grandparents, they were married for many, many years. They didn't have a lot. They were poor. They had 10 children, but they were only separated by death. None of them left the other. But now, as a woman, I can make my own money. I don't have to wait for a man to provide for me. So that gives me power. And with that kind of power, I also don't want to be trapped in a marriage where I'm unhappy. So we
yes.
have a lot of options than the older generation. I think that's why their marriages lasted longer because they had less.
Hmm. So
Now we
financial,
have more.
yes, the financial independence gives the power to get separated, or you can think like the way you want. So do not want to tolerate anything
Yes,
from your husband or wife's side. You know?
yes,
So
yes,
that is
yes,
the biggest reason in India as well. The financial independence
yes,
to just
yes,
get divorced.
yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Okay, this is the nice topic, Millie. Thank you so much again. So,
All right, thank you.
so we can end here.